Okay, now I know I am busting on the scene, it appears overnight, saying I know everything about physics. Well, I'll tell you what, this was my house. I got pushed out of this house, and I understood it long before these people now are talking about muons and electrons and neutrons and all that. Intermolecular forces. Two types, but they're always dipole-dipole interactions, which means there is nothing but dipoles. Induced dipoles, electrostatic forces between which exist momentarily in nonpolar molecules. However, very rapid fluctuation of electron density, which happens for 10 to the minus 13 seconds. That's what I came up with way back then. I don't know how I did it. I got to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff. Anyway, hydrogen dipole-dipole interaction gets up to about 50 kilocalories per mole. I don't know. I did a lot of research on this, and this shows about and the reason I'm showing you this is I'm not going against the physics now because I don't understand it. I'm going against it because I understand it, and I understood it forever, and I did it forever my whole life. And back then I wrote down that the transfer of energy from light is to atomic vapor. It's atomic vapor. It's plus or minuses. It's dipoles. And I went through all this. Rutherford's atom was wrong because it wouldn't have no light. There was all kinds of problems, and I did this for a very long time, and all of this was calculations and trying to understand the true nature of what they were saying and how everything bonded and worked together and energies. And I did it in the lab, and I did the whole thing. So I'm not new to this. They're new to it as far as I'm concerned. So that's my feeling. Okay, my friends, they are finally coming around to electron flood theory, which is all dipoles. It solves 100% of any material interaction. If you can present me with any mystery, I will discuss it and we will come to a conclusion if my theory is correct or I'm just off the wall crazy. My story is that everything there is made of electrons, even the protons. Protons are made of an accumulation of electrons, which is 1,839 of them. Now, let's go to current model of physics, which is trying to still claw their way back to the standard model. They're never going to, it was never right. 50 years ago, I knew it wasn't right. I wrote papers on the whole thing, and I was destroyed, and I went on my own into electronics, and that's just a whole other story. I was quite successful. I didn't need anybody's help. And they just didn't want to listen. They didn't listen. But I realized back then that a nucleus, which is the core of every atom has a nucleus in the center and then a whole bunch of little particles that surround it, which are called the electrons. Well, I say that the electrons make the nucleus. So the electrons, a big ball of them, makes it a nucleus. And it looks like, basically like this. Hold on, give me a second. Basically like that. That's basically what a nucleus looks like. It doesn't look like this. Gigantic positive. And they still think that today. Unbelievably, they still think that today. And I'm going to show you what light is, and light is dipoles. And I'm going to show you all the current facts that I can establish. Not that I'm guessing at. And they still are guessing and refuse to look at the established fundamental facts that I can produce. That's the key. That's the problem. Okay, what facts am I going to show? I'm going to show you right now. But what is the nuclear EMC effect? Scientists shed light on a physics-defying mystery. Well, I'm going to shed light on how to unmystify the mystery. Now, this EMC is just, I think it's European Muon Consortium, something like that. All it is a name for who they think is on top of this muon research. And I'm going to tell you right now, they don't understand muons the way I understand them. I understand them because I can see them. Okay, before we can get into what I'm talking about, you have to understand what a muon is, because this is going to be all about muons. Now, muons are these showers of particles they see when high energy particles hit our upper atmosphere, and they cascade and create showers, which I'm going to show you those showers because we created them too. Now this is Fermilab's latest muon research, and they have what they call a beauty quark. I'm going to show you that very shortly. And that beauty quark decays into an electron neutrino and an electron shower, and also a muon. And a muon does not shower. And I will show you that happening in real life, not little cartoons. And that's basically all you see from them is cartoons. I've never seen a real picture. Now I'm going to show you the reality of what light does, because that's what we used is light. We didn't use protons, which they use. Light is one of the smallest particles there is. And here are the unknowns right now. This is what the unknowns in physics is. You think physics is known? They don't know what light is. They don't know if it's a particle or a wave. I can show it is a particle and a wave, because the particle itself is tiny, but the wave and the magnetic region it controls is huge. I'll show you that. They don't understand gravity. Not understood at all. Gravity is the dark matter, and I will show you, and I've seen this, and you will see it. Matter is this dark side of matter, which they say is dark matter, dark energy, and so forth. Well, there's reflective matter. I will show you those in our experiments. Light speed, they say it doesn't accelerate. It just, well, I can show you absolutely it accelerates and it slows down. That means that the light as a particle, which I will show you it is a particle, fills the vacuum of space. Space is not a vacuum. It's filled with all these particles, which push back against the other particles coming at it, which is light from other galaxies, so we have no idea where we are in the world, in the universe. This is electron flood theory. This is my email. If somebody wants to get a hold of me about this, I have all the details, I have the measurements, I have weights and all that stuff of the electrons and how many electrons make a proton and a neutron, and you know, basically the whole thing's changed. And they know physics is over. Physics as we know it is completely gone, and they realize that. They just have nothing to replace it with. Electron flood theory takes the stage. 100% of everything is these muons and electrons back to back, which is, it really creates what we would always call an electron. We just never have seen a muon, which is dark matter. Let's take a look at it right now. I've had hundreds of videos on this. For 6 years I've been posting about this. This goes back to 6 years ago. This is concussion of the light wave, which has a particle within it. That would never do anything other than come through at that speed, except we put it through a Venturi and it accelerated, and the particle that is in the front of the wave actually pulled out just like a jet fighter, exceeding the speed of, in this case, light. And it crashed here and exploded, and the particle itself divided. And I'll show you the particle, and you can see that it is accelerated exactly like a jet fighter. And this is fission, and it came back together here as fusion. Now, what is the particle? What did it look like before it accelerated out of here? Well, here's what it looked like. Let's see, where's my red ones? Here they are. Okay, now, if you can see this, I hope you can. Coming in here is the light, coming this direction. Bam! That is the Venturi. And the Venturi is an acceleration device, and it's a crusher. It crushes the fields of the particles. Well, the fields, there's only one that creates a reactive field. The black particle, if you can see that, sometimes it doesn't reflect well, but I think you can see that. The black balls are gravity and muons and dark matter. And they have no reflectivity. They don't reflect anything. There's nothing there to see. It only is an attractive, gravitational, gluey force. There's no reactivity whatsoever other than that. There's no emission, there's no absorption, there's no reflection, there's no anything whatsoever other than attracting back the white particles. They want to be together, and here they are in their undescript form. And they're up in here too. You just can't see them because they're not concussing. The only reason we see these is because they're stacking up at the Venturi. And just prior to hitting the Venturi, they start to get that energetic glow like cosmic radiation. Exactly the same as cosmic radiation. And then they literally divide, which is exactly what they show you on those, they turn into muons, which is what cosmic rays do. So this is not a big stretch here at all. And here they are when they actually create the muons. Remember I said at the Venturi they concuss and the black balls, which was attached to the white, separate. There's the black balls. There's no black balls in here. None, zero, absolutely none. They are around and they come back here. So they separated here, no question whatsoever. They were attached just at this point. We saw that. And then they scramble. That's the fission. Fission means to separate. And the black separated from the white, that case is closed. Fusion means to come back together. And that's exactly what they did here. They came back together instantaneously, because this is light, so it's this far away from the, and this is highly magnified. So you're, you know, like you're just a couple of angstrom units away almost. I mean, you're very, very close. So it's almost instantaneous. They reattach. But if we can get into this region here and harvest this energy, I think we can have a hell of a lot of energy, because that is literally nuclear fusion. And so you saw ours, how we did it, and it accelerated, exploded, and that's what they wanted to see. This is what they want to see, is a black ball and a white ball attached together, coming in like this. And they see these at CERN. It's not that they don't see them, they just don't know what happened, because they are hitting gigantic protons and chunks of matter like mountains against each other, and then they dig through the debris of the mountains and they find a batch of these and they say, well, these must be the smallest particles that exist, because this is what we see, a lot of them, and they're pretty tiny. And then all of a sudden they say, well, but guess what, this can turn into showers and make big splashes of white. This one doesn't do that. It just goes on its own. And they see that happen too. And they say, wow, we've seen electron neutrinos turn into electron showers, and we've seen muon neutrinos turn into nothing other than the muons. They just go on their way. This is the dark matter. This is gravity. This is with gluons. This is the sticky stuff. It's the gravity, and it's heavy. These are big and heavy, and they will not go through the Venturi the way these do and create the showers. Now, they just accidentally have these bump together and do this every now and then, and they think it's a huge miraculous event. We figured a way to crush these in such a way that the field of this, which is reactive, gets so crushed that it just pushes away from everything, and they explode away from everything, because they're amongst a whole batch of other ones that are pushing against them. And everybody's pushing and shoving, and all of a sudden they just explode into that white shower. And the black ones say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm just getting out of the way. I'll come back to you guys when you're all done fighting. And that's exactly what these guys are just fighting. Absolute fight. Push, get away from you, get away from me. I call it push to shove. All right, so if I am right, we created the muons, the electron neutrinos, the electron showers, fission and fusion, and I believe the ability to make extreme amounts of energy fairly easy. You know, using this extreme energetic increase. And basically this is what you do, is a laser through the Venturi, making that gigantic increase in energy from 5 watt input to about 1,000. It's supposed to be 200 times, give or take. So we know we're going to get a whole lot of extra energy. If we can just harvest that and then use a little bit of it to keep the laser going, the rest is free energy. This is all that is required to understand electron flood theory. Electrons are basically, in the old thought, electron and muon were attached together. Nobody ever saw the muon before. So just think of it as this glowy particle. And that's all they say, is there's electrons that surround a big positive core. Totally impossible. Never would work. Okay, so you saw what I just showed you. That's what they're talking about. These are supposed to be muons coming from cosmic rays. And we can pick these up with cell phones. Alright, don't tell me you can't see these things with cell phones. This is the cell phone Rod Warren used, the same one I have here. And all we used was just simple pulse red lasers and the cell phone. And this cell phone is a Galaxy S3, and this goes back to the same time, around 2014, maybe even a couple of years earlier than that. This is what Rod originally presented his evidence to me of this light acceleration, and sure enough, I said, "Whoa!" And then I was going to University of Geneva for particle physics back in the same time frame, and these guys were from CERN, and they realized that with a simple app addition on these phones, the app basically transformed the phone into a high energy particle detector. And the reason is, inside these phones, there's something called CMOS, and I understand this very well. It's complementary metal oxide semiconductors. And what they do is they pick up high energy particles as a pixel. And then the processor in the microprocessor turns it into a picture of energetic reactions, basically. How much energy hit each tiny little pixel. And each tiny little pixel is just so tiny, it's incredible. Because you're working with atoms. You're working with literally metal atoms that they pop like that if you hit them hard enough. You don't hit them hard enough, you're never going to see this stuff. So it's only high energy particles. Now, so cosmic rays are these high energy subatomic particles. Well, anyways, let me just read that over because I said it wrong. Cosmic rays are energetic subatomic particles created in cosmic accelerators like black holes and exploding stars. That's what scientists think. Well, we can create them by crushing the fields. And that's what happens is when a particle smashes another particle in just the right way and crushes the fields, they'll separate. And that's what a cosmic ray is, which are these energetic subatomic particles. And that's what they want to do, is see these coming into the atmosphere. When the particles crash into Earth's atmosphere, they create showers of secondary particles called muons. Well, the cosmic rays are not necessarily a specific cosmic ray energy. They actually, well, they might be in some cases, but we can create these muons with any kind of light. They don't have to be cosmic rays. They just have to interact with the secondary particle in such a way that it crushes the fields, and then they separate. And that's when you get your muons, which I showed you just moments ago. All right, here it is in a nutshell. We can see these things with these cell phones, so don't tell me it's not possible. I just explained to you. This is light coming from a red pulse laser. This is the interaction with the particles that are magnetic, that are in the gases in the atmosphere, because this is a magnetic particle too. So each field pushes against each other's fields. Well, this one's really pushing, and this one's shoving back. Push to shove. Now we go to the accelerator, which is the particle actually leaving that wave. And we can see it is an actual particle. And right here is when it manifests itself in this form right here, with the box configuration. And they call this 2p, 2h. 2p's was the particles, white, white. 2h is the holes, black, black. And they have discovered in 2013 they could get excess energy if they could create these. And we can create them in vast, unlimited, over and over and over quantities, as you see right here. All right? We split them. So we got fission, now we got fusion. Precisely what they asked for. The muon neutrino and electron neutrino, the black and white ball, turning into the black ball stays the same. The white ball turns into the showers. Exactly what you're looking at right there. We accelerated light. We saw the photons. We split the photons. We fused the photons. I think this deserves a little more attention. Now don't forget, I was telling you this, what I was showing you was actually photons of light being crushed in a venturi. These, at CERN and so forth, they smash the particles head on. Gigantic chunks of things. I mean, literally mountains compared to what I was using. And they explode into these piles of debris. Then they look to see if they could find the tiniest little ones. How small can they find them? That's what they're looking for. And they do. They find them in the same things that I just showed you. But they have absolutely no idea how they got there. All they know is that you can make the protons, which they were using, turn into little tiny bits and pieces. And they want to know what's the littlest bit and piece that's always the same. What is that tiny little elementary particle? Elementary means it can't be broken anymore. Well, I showed you from light, we can get down to those elementary particles they're looking for, but we know they came from the light. We know they were originally a photon. And I can tell you right now, that photon is made of 2 electrons. An electron is this right here. It is a black ball attached to a glowy white explosive ball. This one is the muon, black dark matter, and it's a hell of a lot of gravity. It will pull that back instantaneously, as I showed you in the experiments. It's not a big mystery now. Now we got to get into the construction of the nucleus, because once you go from here of an electron, which we know we can separate, shown it, done it, showers, goes on its way the way it is, 2 of them back to back, which is a little 4-banger like this, is a photon. An electron in this configuration here will burn you. This is lightning, this is static, this is electricity, this is a flow of particles that push and want to attach to other particles. And if they're pushed hard enough, they'll just rip right through other particles. Basically, this is, and that's why you see sparks and lightning and smoke. It just tears right into water molecules, explodes them, because this is not like light. Light is just 2 of these back to back, so it becomes semi-neutralish. It will bang you hard enough. If there's enough of them hitting you, you know, sunlight, you warm up, obviously, because it is banging other the electrons. It's banging all the other electrons that are on the surface of things, banging them, boom, 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 and they bang around, and they actually flow into your body. You accumulate these electrons as heat. That's a whole other issue, because heat is not understood either. Heat is strictly extra electrons. All right, and I'll just quickly tell you one thing right now. Superconductivity is completely 0 extra electrons. There is no extra electrons. There's always extra electrons in everything. That is heat. That is just ambient temperature of the thing. When you get to absolute 0, that temperature can't go any below that. You really have absolute 0 extra electrons in there. So it becomes superconductive. And you say, well, why would that happen, Roger? Because it wants to take in electrons. As soon as you hit it with the electrons, they start to fill up. It loses superconductivity instantaneously because they become resistive. They start to fill up all the holes that are in there. When you pull all those electrons out, all you have is holes. And they say, give me some electrons. You say, no, 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 you stay cold. You stay cold. We'll take all those electrons. We take them out. And it gets down to 0, you know, absolute 0. And all you have is matter left, which is, and there's no extra floating around electrons in there in a soup. And then all of a sudden you hit it with electricity and they, woof, that's superconductivity. But instantaneously it stops. If you can keep it that cold, it'll go on forever because it just keeps sucking them in, but where you can't do that. That's why superconductivity will never work. Not with that process of cold. You can never overcome the cold. It's just like hot fusion. You can't break something apart and let it come back together and make more excess energy. They're only up to, like, I think they were big partying, having a big party because they got all the way up to 80% return. So they lost 20% and they're happy. We're showing an excess of energy. Looks to me, it could very well be 200 times with no increased power used whatsoever. Complete passive Venturi. And I'm showing actual pictures of them, not just little doodle looking things, you know, because that's all they have is like little cartoons of what they do, and they've touted their discoveries for 20 years and never really discovered anything. I don't think I have ever discovered anything that I know of. Maybe they have, but it's all about this stuff here. We're getting down to the matter. Wow, we're really getting somewhere. In the last 20 years, we did all this. Well, and spent absolutely trillions of dollars. And I'm showing the actual events, and I've been blocked now from posting. Like I can't post anywhere. They won't allow me to post because my stuff kind of overwhelms what they're showing. So they're really scared about their funding, I would imagine. They should be, because we're just absolutely drained on society for absolutely nothing. And actually, it's creating a pushback against reality, because we could have free power, literally free power. If I could get somebody to talk about this stuff is right on the shelf today. I know that people, I know there's some people looking at it, but they're not looking at it, they're not talking to me, they're not understanding the Venturi. They're trying to use pinholes, they're doing this and that. Everybody wants to get their own little piece of the pie and patent something special, when it's just here sitting in front of you. I don't want any patents. Just and it's because I've shown it, and I tell you exactly how to do it. I don't think it's patentable by anybody. You might have some special film that you might make that absorbs extra electrons and somebody else can't make it because you figured out the process. Well, that's good. I don't care about that. But the actual basis of just a solar panel, they're all over the place. And that's all you need, because you're putting the energetic value here, like the sun 6 inches away from your solar panel. Basically, that's what's going on here. All right. What I just got here is I've got my probes going across one of these little chips, which is nothing more than a light bulb chip, and all of them light up at the same time. A tremendous amount of light and very little heat. That's the beauty of these things, because the heat is what causes the problems. And CMOS, if you configure it correctly, gives off very little heat. Now, just the ambient light that's coming down on it is producing 0.14 volts. Now watch. I close over the top of it. See it go down? Right down to 0. No light's falling on that, so it doesn't emit electricity, because it goes both ways. If you put electricity in, light comes out. You put light in, electricity comes out. Same thing. Watch. There it goes right back up now. Now, what if I really whack that thing with some light? Which this light is a pretty powerful light. Bam. Look at that. Half a volt. It goes right up to a half a volt. 5.54. That's a huge increase. Now, when we put it in the Venturi and the other thing, if we get the correct receiving stuff, we're going to be picking up tons of extra electricity. That's my feeling. And you can see that light is the driver, and the more energetic, bright light. You see how bright light that light is? That's not a puppy. And the more light you put out, the more light you're going to get back out. The closer I would go in there, the more light I'm going to get out. Look, out here I wouldn't get that much. Right in there, bam. Let's try it again. Wow, something I just realized was, even, see what way out here? I'm way up here, and I'm still getting almost a half a volt, 0.4 something. I'm way up here. Now, that's almost 0.49. That's basically 0.5 volts. I come way down on here, and all I did was pick up an extra, it went up to 0.56. All right, so I picked up a very small amount, 0.06. But I can guarantee you that there's a lot of extra current, more electrons flowing through there. So it has a voltage rating that I think looks pretty good, that it's going to pick up a lot of voltage regardless of the intensity of the light. So the voltage is separate of the actual amperage. Very interesting. Yep, after 42 years still works. Now there's a little switch back here. Whenever I push it down, it locks in on a new, and all you have to do is lift it up and drop it down. Blip, there's a 4. Blip, there's a 3. Another 3. Another 3. That's unusual. Oops, there's a 1. There's a 5. There's a 6. There's a 4. Anyway, that's, and I made this 40 years ago, and it still works. So that's solid state for you.